TSN, and as most of you know, this is Gary Bettman from the National Hockey League. What's your role?
Commissioner, last time I checked.
Okay. On the way up here, Gary, I had a chance to visit with Melody Davidson, the fine coach for Team Canada at the last 2 Olympics where Canada won gold with the women, and she said, hockey's in a really good place. Do you agree?
I think hockey is in a really good place on virtually all levels of the game. More people are playing it than ever before. We've come off an absolutely outstanding season, starting with the game on the ice and all of the various measurements that come from that, be it online usage, television ratings, attendance, or the like. This was a really strong season for us.
There's an elephant in the room. I don't know if you can feel him stampeding around. It has to do with a word that starts with O.
Renee isn't that big.
Olympic. No, Renee's not that big. He told us before he wasn't very big. It has to do with Olympics. Yes. I've never heard you have a real square stand on the Olympics going forward to 2014. Do you have a position?
You know, it fascinates me to hear and see all of the commentary that says, as a first principle, that I'm against going to the Olympics. We've gone to the last 4 Olympics, and if somebody has to take the blame or the credit for that, it's me. The commotion, if you will, the elephant in the room, is simply that we haven't made a decision yet. And I don't think the fact that we haven't made a decision yet is that big a deal. First of all, going to the Olympics for us is a mixed bag. It can be very, very, very good, but even when it's very, very, very good, there are some issues and problems that are attendant to that. But on balance, for example, in Vancouver, where things were spectacular, on balance, that was a good experience. It wasn't all good, but it was good. Our experience in places, for example, outside of North America, when you balance the mixed bag, you tend to tip to the other side of the spectrum. We are not under any time pressure to make a decision. The fact of the matter is the IOC has not even done its broadcasting rights yet, and who broadcasts the games, particularly in Canada and the United States, may be an issue for us in terms of getting satisfied that if we're going to make the effort to go, assuring ourselves that we're going to be covered in a way that we think is appropriate for taking the 16 days or whatever it is off. And perhaps most importantly, this is a decision that has to be made jointly with the Players Association, and the timing of that, for a whole variety of reasons, doesn't lend itself for decision making. Now, my guess is, if I asked who in this room was in favor of us going to the Olympics, 90% of you would raise your hands, and that's very nice. But that decision isn't going to be made in this room. It's going to be made in the room where the Board of Governors meet, and the 30 clubs are going to weigh in after we weigh in on all the factors that have to be addressed, because there are a host of issues that are going to have to be addressed if the decision is going to be that we go to Sochi. Actually, I'll do a different poll. How many in this room have actually been to Sochi? Well, I think we're going to all have to learn a lot about Sochi, and that may be part of the decision-making process.
Take us into a Board of Governors meeting. One point that you would say to the Board of Governors why you should go to the Olympics.
Well, you know what? I don't make it a practice of discussing publicly what I'm going to discuss with the Board of Governors. I do believe that there is a mixed sentiment among the clubs. There are some clubs that think going to the Olympics is a terrible idea under any circumstances, and there are some clubs that think it's important no matter what the sacrifice is. And ultimately, when we focus on, at the right time, the decision-making process and what the issues are and how the IOC and the IIHF are prepared to address those issues, the board will reason together and make an informed decision, and we'll see where we go from there, again, with the Players Association.
How important is financing in all this? in terms of finances that come into the league? Is that something that concerns you?
You know, that's something that we've never discussed. I could give you a list, and I'm not going to do it, of probably 10 issues that you would have to address before you even think about whether or not that's an issue. But that's nothing we've ever historically asked the IIHF or the IOC for. What's interesting to me, though, is I've been told by some broadcasters that they intend to submit a television bid that's contingent on us being there, one price with us there and another price without us there. If they do that, that will make for an interesting dynamic.
That's something you could bring to the Board of Governors, is it not?
Well, you know, it's a whole package. It's not one issue. It's a whole host of issues that have to be addressed. And, you know, raising this to an emotional level, you know, rhetoric publicly and privately, that isn't what's going to get this done. When the board gets together to try and deal with this issue, it's going to be based on a very reasoned analysis that goes to what the issues are, both for the Olympics and for the NHL. And again, it's a mixed bag. I never lose sight of the fact that international competition is important to our game. That's why something like 1,500 players from the NHL have participated in the World Championships since the year 2000. And so we take that all into account. And again, and I'll end this part of my answer with where I began it a couple of minutes ago. It's a mixed bag. Even under the best of circumstances, there are problems attendant to it. Vancouver was great, and anybody who was in Vancouver knew it was great. It was terrific hockey, much akin to what you'll see in the Stanley Cup playoffs, particularly in a Game 7 in any of the rounds. But in the final analysis, anybody who's dealing with this from an objective, rational business standpoint needs to look at all the factors. And by the way, people suggest business, the NHL, that's all they worry about. This is as big a business, if not bigger, for the IOC than it is for us.
We're talking international.